The night she stepped from the shadows, the wind smelled like snow and trouble. Name's Caleb Holt. I've been talking to fire longer than to folks. A man learns the kinds of quiet out here. That evening, I heard the sharp kind, small breaths, hiding behind my barn. I went slow, hands open, moon a sliver. There she was, dress frayed, jaw set, standing in front of two little girls clutching rotten apples, not thieving eyes, starving eyes. "Ma'am," I said, "you're on my land." We weren't stealing. Barely a whisper, she pulled those girls close, one all eyes and bone, the other trying to be brave for both. I knew that look. Wore it myself after Sarah died. I shrugged off my coat, held it to the smallest. Cold bites worse than any law. Fire's lit, stew's hot, no strings, just supper. She hesitated, like a doe that's learned man. Pride keeps you upright, right up till it kills you. "We can work," she said. "I can mend, scrub." "It ain't wages," I told her. "It's warmth." She took the coat. The weight in air folded her. We crossed the yard in that dead Kansas quiet, lantern throwing a thin gold path. Inside, I set bowls. They sat like guests who'd forgotten how. First spoonful hit the littlest, and she near melted. The older ate slow, polite, practicing groan. "Name's Eleanor," the woman said after a spell. "This is Clara. That's Ruthie." Ohio dust clung to her words. "Their pa went west for gold. We're following, best we can." I nodded. Folks chase a lot out here. Gold, rain, forgiveness. Mostly we found miles. We ate quiet. When the bowls were clean, she tried to pay me with thanks I didn't need. "It's just supper," I said. "Tomorrow you can move on if you want. Tonight be warm without arguing." Truth is, I wasn't rescuing anybody. I was keeping a promise from the day Sarah slipped away and took the music with her. Strangers once found me drowning and threw a rope, told me to pass it on when the time came. I've been waiting, angry at God, the doctor who shut his door, and the part of me that kept breathing. Eleanor tucked the girls under my quilts. Ruthie vanished in the covers like a rabbit in grass. Clara fought sleep, like rest was a luxury. I dragged my chair to the hearth and poured coffee black as midnight. Eleanor held her hands to the blaze, knuckles split and bloody. "You caught us with bad apples," she said. "I used to think I was better than that." "Apples fall," I told her. "Some bruise, some don't. We're all just keeping the worms at bay." She looked at the rifle over my door. "Is it safe here?" "As safe as any place built out of wood and stubbornness." I fed the fire. "There's men on these roads. Ain't found the part of themselves that's human. But tonight, you're behind my walls." She studied me, like a thirsty woman studying the river, wondering if it's water or a trick of light. "Why help us?" "'Cause somebody didn't help when I asked, I said, Sarah's name sticking in my throat. "And because there's too much heart in the world already." The room softened. The wind dragged its coat over the prairie. The house seemed to exhale. I offered her the bed. She argued till tired won. I took the chair. After a while, the little one whimpered. Eleanor soothed her with a palm to the hair, humming a tune that might have been a hymn once. Clara watched me over the quilt edge like a coyote at a camp, curious, ready to run. "Sleep," I said. "Doors barred. Nothing gets in I don't let in." Her eyelids fought, then lost. I sat the watch like I have 100 nights. Only this time there were 3 extra heartbeats, and the silence wasn't the cutting kind anymore. It was the kind that lets a man remember he's still a man. I listened to the girls breathe and felt something I hadn't in too long to name. Not hope, but the memory of it. Toward morning, the fire fell to red eyes and the roof popped in the freeze. I told myself they'd be gone by noon. The road takes everybody. I told myself I'd be fine. Truth rode up quiet as a stray colt. I didn't want that door closing on him. At dawn I brewed coffee and set the skillet on. Habit maybe, or want. When Eleanor rose, she started apologizing for taking my bed, my food, my air. I handed her a cup. It ain't charity, I said. It's supper and a warm night, that's all. Steam framed her face. For a heartbeat, I saw how she must have looked before miles and hunger, proud, bright, quick to laugh. Grief turns us into strangers to ourselves. You could stay the day, I heard myself say. Rest the girls. Weather's coming. She measured the window, the light, the road that had no end. One day, she whispered, I'm up, but we'll work. Do as you please, I said. Just don't invent chores to buy what's already paid. The girls woke to bacon like a miracle. For a little while we sounded near like a family. Clatter of forks, small laughs, the hush that falls when bellies remember full. I tell you, I was only honoring a promise. I tell you it was nothing but neighborly, but a man ought to speak plain. That morning, in the quiet desert of my grief, 3 strangers crossed my threshold, and the house wasn't empty anymore. And in the breath before the day took hold, I learned this much. Loneliness is loudest right before it breaks. By mid-morning, the storm laid a gray hand on the prairie. Snow the size of salt grains, mean and steady. I kept the girls close to the stove with a box of buttons and a length of twine. Kids don't need much to build a world, just warmth and a voice that don't spit. Eleanor asked for a needle and went to work on a ripped hem. She sat straight, as if dignity was a chair with one good leg left. I split kindling, checked the latch, moved just to keep from thinking. That never works long. Your wife, she said soft. You spoke of her last night. I set the axe down. The handle had a chip I'd been ignoring. Sarah, I don't say her name much. House listens when I do. She was music, I said. You ever meet someone and the first thing you hear is a sound you've been looking for? Eleanor didn't answer. She knew. Folks who've chased a horizon can hear that kind of thing. We married the year the grass came in high and the cattle prices didn't. I built this place with hands that still believed in spring. Sarah planted lilacs out front, though the soil fought her like a mule. She'd hum and dig and tell those roots, be stubborn, little ones. She talked to plants like kin. They listened better than I did. I remember one night, clearer than most. The river was low. Crickets sang like a dull saw. We lost a calf to fever that day. I was mean with it, swinging fists at shadows. She set a pot on and pulled me down to the doorstep. Hush, she said. We watched the moon climb out of the cottonwoods like a lantern God forgot. She put my hand over her heart. Feel that, she whispered, and I'm still beating. That's the whole sermon. I told her I'd build a bigger corral come spring. She laughed, leaned her head on my shoulder and said, build me a porch instead. Somewhere quiet for old bones, I promised. Men promise easy when winter's far off. Then the cough came. It started as a scratch, just a nettle in the throat. By harvest, she was spitting rust into a rag she kept hid. I found it by the wash basin, and the room went small. She said it was nothing. I pretended to believe her. I rode for the doctor the night Her breath shortened to a rasp. Knocked at his door till my knuckles bled. He opened a crack, eyes like coins. Payment up front, Holt. I got dues in Wichita. I'll bring beef when the thaw. Beef don't pay men who ride stage. He started to shut the door. She's dying, I told him. You're the only man with bottles that might say otherwise. He looked past me like there was something interesting in the dark. Ain't my business who God calls. Then he latched it. I stood there hearing Sarah's cough across town, every breath a mile. I rode home empty. No bottles, no help, nothing but a hole looking for a place to lie. I sat by her through the longest night the world ever made. Dawn was pale and worthless. She asked me to tell her a story. I couldn't find one, so I held her, felt that sermon drum under my palm. Then the drum slowed, then quieted, then quit. Men who say they don't cry ain't met the hour that breaks 'em. I buried her where the lilacs kept trying. The wind came up with dust, like the world was ashamed and tried to hide it. I carved Sarah into a plank that was too soft to hold the letters long. I told the dirt I'd build her a porch so the evening could sit with company. Then I shut the house and tried not to be home. Months slid by in a long, icy hiss. Cattle, fence, storms, work. I spoke to nobody but the fire and the dog that wouldn't quit sleeping on her shawl. When strangers passed, I kept my head down, like grief made me mean. Maybe it did. Eleanor listened without moving her hands. The needle rested in cloth. Her eyes carried a weight my words recognize. I had a doctor once, she said. He told me to save my money for when I got truly sick. I laughed then. Ain't laughed much since. Ruthie tugged my sleeve. Mr. Caleb, can I go outside? Short as a sneeze, I said. Stay where I can see. The girl stepped onto the stoop and caught flakes with her tongue. It was such a small joy I near looked away. Small joys are bright. They show you the dust on your own heart. Eleanor threaded the needle again. Thomas left for California when the newspapers said the rivers were full of gold. Said he'd send for us in summer. Summer kept moving. She nodded to him, bit the thread. You ever keep a door open so long, your hand forgets how to close it? Every day, I said. The girls played a clapping game by the window. Claire's face had the look of a child auditing the world, marking what can be trusted. When she caught me watching, she straightened like a soldier, then half smiled, surprised it still worked. I set coffee on and poured 2 tin cups. We drank quiet. The stove ticked. Wind rubbed the walls. Sometimes I hear her, I said. Not like ghosts, more like a memory that waits in a certain part of the day, right for sundown. That place where things get honest. Eleanor nodded. I hear the river out west calling his name. It don't change the empty chair. We sat with that. No advice, no bright words, just 2 people holding the same rope from different banks. Afternoon, I took Ruthie out to check the stock. Claire insisted on helping. She walked careful, as if the snow might judge her. I let her open the gate, let her feel how the latch bites, how a hinge groans when it's overdue for oil. Kids remember the feel of useful things. It builds them a sort of spine. You're teaching a lot for folks who are leaving, Eleanor said when we came in. I'm practicing, I told her. For what? I didn't answer. Some troops ain't ripe yet. Toward evening, storm thinned to lace. I lit the lamp. Eleanor sewed by gold light Her face turned calm by work and the fact of a roof. Silence grew gentle again, the kind you can sleep inside of. She glanced at the rifle over the door. If we stay till morning, would it be trouble? There's always trouble, huh? I said, but none we can't shoulder. I leaned back, heard the bones in the chair complain. I thought of Sarah's porch that never came to be. Thought of those lilacs stubbled by frost but still holding on. Maybe a porch ain't a board and a nail. Maybe it's a place at a table, a hand that pours, a voice that says, eat, rest, stay. Snow quit. Night pressed its ear to the windows. I banked the fire slow. Funny thing about memories. Some bite, some bless. Most do both. And leave you staring at a quiet room that don't feel quite so empty anymore. 3 days turned into 5 before any of us mentioned leaving. The road was still mean with ice, and my excuse was chores that couldn't wait. Truth was, I didn't want to watch that wagon trail vanish again. The house felt lived in, like a song had found its second verse. Then trouble came riding slow, same as it always does. That afternoon, the wind shifted south, carrying the sound of hooves. I looked out and saw 3 riders cresting the ridge. Long coats, rifles slung too easy. They weren't neighbors. You can tell by the way a stranger sits his horse, loose, like he don't expect to earn tomorrow. Eleanor froze where she was pouring beans. Who are they? Drifters, I said, though my gut said worse. Get the girls to the cellar. Don't ask, just go. She did, quiet and quick, pushing Clara and Ruthie down the narrow steps. The trapdoor shut soft behind them. By the time the riders pulled up, I was on the porch with my Henry across my knees. Morning, gents, I called them. What brings you this far from a saloon? The lead one grinned, teeth gone to ruin. Heard you're sitting on feed and whiskey, old man, winter's long. Longer for thieves, I said. They spread out some, thinking I wouldn't notice. I've seen wolves try that dance. You let one flank you, you don't live to regret it. Now don't get hasty, the second said. We just want to warm our bones. Then stand in the sun, I told him. The first one spat. We ain't asking polite. I cocked the Henry, slow enough they'd hear it clean. Neither am I. Silence sat heavy a second, then the wind shifted again, blowing their smell my way. Cheap smoke and horse sweat, men who hadn't eaten decency in a while. The leader laughed low. You're outnumbered. Maybe, but you're out of time. He twitched a hand toward his belt. I fired first. The shot cracked across the prairie, echoing like judgment. His hat flew. His shoulders spun red. The others bolted half-hearted, shooting wild as they ran. I dropped one round into the dirt near their heels just to speed 'em up. Then the quiet came back, thick and breathing. I watched the ridge till they shrank to ghosts, then lowered the rifle and let out what I'd been holding. My hands shook less than they used to. Guess fear gets tired too. Eleanor lifted the cellar door, eyes wide, girls clinging to her skirts. Are they gone? For now. She climbed up, knelt by the threshold where blood had spattered the snow. You could have been killed. So could they, I said, then softer. Didn't want it, but the world don't always ask. She wiped her palms on her dress, smearing dust like war paint. I hate this land, she said. It takes and takes. It gives back if you wait long enough, I told her. Sometimes too long. That night, nobody slept much. The girls lay bundled near the fire, eyes half open, dreaming of boots on the porch. Eleanor sat beside me, holding a cup she didn't drink from. The lamplight trembled on her fingers. "I keep wondering if he's still alive," she said. "Thomas, maybe he made it rich and can't find the words to write." "Gold's loud," I said, "but guilt's louder." She looked up sharp, like I'd named a thing she wasn't ready to see. "You don't know him?" "No, but I know men who leave." Silence again, the kind that cuts. After a while she said, "If they come back?" "They won't, not soon, but I'll teach you what to do if they do." Next morning, I set up bottles on the fence and handed her the spare Colt. She never held one proper, but her eyes said she'd held harder burdens. We practiced till her wrist steadied, till Ruthie's laughter came back around. "You aim like you're arguing with fate," I told her. "Been arguing my whole life," she said. She hit the last bottle dead center. Glass caught the light, scattered it over the snow. She lowered the gun, breathing fast. "That's enough for today," I said. She smiled, small and strange. "Feels good to not be scared for a minute." "Don't get used to it," I said, but smiled back anyway. By week's end, the road had thawed. She said it was time to go. I nodded, like a man who meant it, helped hitch the wagon, loaded what little they had. Claire climbed up, Ruthie waved, Eleanor turned to me. "I don't know how to repay." "You already did," I said. "You reminded me what a home sounds like." She touched my sleeve and then climbed aboard. I watched them roll down the trail, wheels crunching frozen mud. The house shrank quieter than ever. I told myself it was right. Roads are meant for traveling. Still, the silence came back heavier than before. That night, I poured 2 cups of coffee, like a fool. Hers went cold untouched. I sat till dawn, staring at that empty chair by the fire, hearing Sarah's laugh fade into Eleanor's voice. Funny thing how the past don't stay buried. It rides the same roads we do, and somehow always finds the way home. Winter gave way the way old men give in, slow, stubborn, and still complaining. Grass started peeking through the frost, and the air carried that muddy promise of spring. I'd near made peace with being alone again when the letter came. The rider handed it off without a word, just a nod and the smell of road dust. Paper thin as onion skin, edges browned. The handwriting was shaky, a clerk's scrawl to Mrs. Eleanor Graves. Your husband, Thomas Graves, perished in a mining collapse near Sacramento. Personal effects enclosed. With condolences, Samuel Chen. Inside a ring bent near flat, and a scrap of cloth that might have been part of his shirt. That was all a man's life amounts to sometimes. 2 ounces of memory and a bad smell of earth. I stared at it a long while, thumb in the crease till the ink smudged. Then I saddled up. The trail to Independence ran brown with meltwater, creeks swollen, ruts deep as lies. Took me 2 days to find their wagon camped behind a supply store. The horse recognized me first, ears up, soft wicker like he'd seen a ghost. Eleanor was bartering flour. She turned, saw me, and froze, mid-sentence. Her face said everything before her lips moved. "Why are you here, Caleb?" I held out the letter. Didn't reckon the wind could carry this alone. She took it, hands trembling, read it slow. The color drained till she looked near transparent. The girl stood close, not understanding, only knowing something broke. When she finished, she folded it neat, too neat, like manners could hold back grief. "He's gone," she said. I nodded. "I'm sorry." She pressed the ring into her palm till it cut. He wasn't a bad man, just restless. Restless can kill faster than bullets, I said. She laughed once, short and wrong. I thought I'd feel anger. All I feel is empty. Emptiness has a way of filling itself if you let it, I told her. Give it time. She looked at the girls, then back at me. Time don't feed children. I got plenty of work. The ranch could use hands that know when to speak and when to hush. She studied me like a man studying weather, trying to guess if the storm's over or just hiding. I don't want charity. It ain't charity, I said, it's supper and a roof. Same as before. She hesitated, then nodded slow, just till spring. Spring's got a way of stretching itself, I said. We rode back together, wagon creaking behind. The girls half asleep against her. I kept a distance out of respect and out of fear of what I wanted. The land was waking up when we reached the valley. Snow melt trickled through gullies like the earth remembering how to breathe. The house stood the same, yet not. It looked expectant somehow. Eleanor stepped down first. The girls ran straight to the corral, laughing, that sound that fixes more than words ever will. That night we ate in silence, the kind that rests easy. I saw her fingers brush the table edge where Sarah's candle used to sit. She must have been kind, she said she was, and stubborn, like to prove the world wrong. She'd have liked these girls. Yeah, she'd have liked you too. She didn't answer, just stared at the fire, eyes wet in the flicker. Later, after the girls slept, she stepped onto the porch. I followed, hands buried in my coat. The sky was a black sea with stars floating like lanterns. She's out there somewhere, Eleanor said, and you're Sarah, watching. I reckon so. And Thomas? I took my time. Maybe. Or maybe he's the dust that makes the wind. Either way, they're both gone where we can't fix 'em. She leaned on the rail. Do you ever stop blaming yourself? Not yet, but it don't hurt as sharp. Just dull like a scar that knows rain's coming. She smiled, sad but real. I'd like to learn that. You will. We stood quiet a spell. Crickets tuned up. Somewhere far off, a coyote sang the same song it's been singing since God first tried his hand at loneliness. She said, if I stay, if I help you through the season, what then? Then we see if we can build something that don't fall apart come winter. Her breath caught. You make it sound simple. It ain't, but nothing worth building ever is. She turned to me, eyes catching the lamplight. You're a good man, Caleb. I shook my head. No, ma'am. Just one that's done enough wrong to know better. She stepped close enough that I could feel the cold on her skin. That maybe that's exactly the kind I trust. She went inside before I could speak. The door clicked, soft as forgiveness. I stayed out a while, listening to the boards creak under my boots. The porch she'd asked me to build was still only a promise, but right then it felt half done just standing there. And in the stillness, with the stars overhead and the fire glow slipping through the window, I knew this much. Maybe redemption don't ride in fast. Maybe it comes slow, on tired hooves, breathing like spring after a hard freeze. And that night, for the first time in years, I slept without the sound of a ghost knocking. Spring stayed this time. The fields turned soft and green, and the wind lost its teeth. Life has a way of sneaking back in, one heartbeat at a time. The girls planted flowers over by the fence, near the spot Sarah once promised her lilacs would take root. I'd catch Clara humming while she worked, same tune her mama used to quiet storms inside her chest. Ruthie ran wild, bringing me treasures, rocks, feathers, half a rusty nail. Kids see worth where grown folks see nothing. Eleanor kept the house running. She talked low in the mornings, coffee steam mixing with her breath, saying things like, "You ever wonder what heaven smells like?" I'd answer, "Maybe like bacon if the good Lord's fair." She'd laugh, and that sound would settle in my bones better than whiskey. Sometimes, when the day leaned quiet, I'd find her standing by the door, staring east toward the road she came from. I never asked what she saw. Some memories ain't meant to be spoken over. Just stood beside. Come summer, the apple tree out back, the same one that once dropped nothing but rotten fruit, put out its first bloom. Pale pink, shy as forgiveness. The girls near tore the door off, shouting, "Look, Ma, it's alive." Eleanor touched the branch like it might break. "Guess the world still believes in second chances," she said. That night, I whittled a small cross from apple wood and set it in the windowsill. Not for death, for starting over. Weeks later, she came to me while I was mending tack. The sun was burning down slow, the air thick with that sweet dust smell you only get before rain. "I've been thinking," she said, "about what comes next." "Always a dangerous habit," I told her. She smiled faint. "We could head west, find something new." "You could," I said, "but you don't have to." She looked down at her hands. "The girls need steadiness. And maybe so do I." I waited. Words mean more when they take their time. She stepped closer. "This place feels safe, not just the walls. You." I set the leather aside and ain't much of a man for speeches, Eleanor. But if staying means building a life that don't hurt to wake up to, then you got a home here always. She took my hand. Her fingers were warm, a little rough, alive. "Then let's build that porch you promised her, for all of us." We worked till twilight, measuring planks, hammering steady. The girls fetched nails, laughing when we missed. By sundown, we had the first boards down, wide enough for 4 chairs and a cup of piece apiece. When the last nail set, Eleanor sat beside me, looking out across the prairie where the wind rolled the grass like water. The sky blazed orange, and for a moment, the world went still enough to hear your own heart remember how to beat. "She liked this," Eleanor said. "My not, she would. And Thomas, he'd want you happy. That's what men say when they're leaving. Some even mean it." She smiled through tears that didn't fall. "Maybe he did." We sat till the stars came on, no words left that needed saying. Inside, the girls were drifting to sleep, whispering secrets to the dark. The apple tree moved gentle in the wind, leaves clapping soft like a hymn. I looked at Eleanor, her hair catching starlight, and felt that old ache turn to something kinder. Not the sharp grief of what was lost, but the quiet acceptance of what was found. Funny thing, peace, it don't announce itself. It just walks in, sets down its hat, and stays if you let it. The night settled around us, easy and warm. I could still taste the dust of all the miles behind me, but it didn't sting anymore. And maybe love ain't about holding on. It's about learning to let go gentle.